Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about the SAP on AWS Specialty Certification. Now we're following the exam guide, so make sure you go and download that from the AWS Certifications page. Now domain 1.1 talks about knowledge of AWS Global Infrastructure. It talks about SAP VPC Patterns, AWS connectivities like Direct Connect and VPN, deploying your SAP workloads to a single AWS account or a multi-AWS account. So let's actually take a look at an example. So you can see my regions come up and I'm going to drop a workload in there. So I've got a VPC spanning 2 AZs and we're going to call this our shared VPC. So this is for shared services, auditing, logging, things like that. And then we've got our most important VPC, which is for production. So this is where we run our business critical workloads. So we've got prod and then we've obviously got QA like this. And then we're going to drop dev in down here. Like this. So this is great. We've got our workloads isolated within a VPC each. And this is great from a network isolation perspective because we can actually control the traffic that's coming into prod. We can actually manage that using network access control lists, security groups, for example. We can actually monitor the traffic using VPC flow logs. And there are a number of other services that will help you actually analyze and keep an eye on the traffic that's coming in and out of your production VPC. But what if we want to actually restrict user access to production? So for example, the developers don't necessarily need access to the production account, right? So one of the ways we can actually do that is by deploying a multi-account architecture. So as you can see, each of my VPCs have now been wrapped in an AWS account, meaning that those workloads are deployed within their own AWS accounts. What that does is that brings identity access management into play per account. So now we can have identity access management just for production and actually control who has access to the production AWS account. So production, it will be people, from an operational perspective and monitoring and maintenance of production. The developers won't be given access to production. They'll have their own identity access management controlling their access to the developer account, which is fine, and the services within that account, and that's absolutely fine. And the great thing for developers is they need a little bit more flexibility. They need to be able to innovate, for example, and they can do that isolated within the AWS account that's dedicated for them and their VPC without impacting other workloads, especially production, which is business critical, right? The other thing to point out here is data isolation. So any AMIs that are in production, for example, and snapshots, they're restricted to the production account unless they're explicitly shared. So the multi-account deployment has a number of benefits. A couple of them I've stated, and there are more listed in some of the documentation that you'll find in my post above. So please expand that. All of the services I've mentioned that you need to know from the SAP exam perspective are going to be listed in my post as well. So make sure you expand that. Make sure you like this video. And make sure you follow me. I've got a lot more content coming, so it'll be good fun. And the second video that's coming out straight after this is going to be about how do you actually connect these different VPCs and AWS accounts together. And we'll have a quick look at that in the follow-up video. So I'll catch you then. Thanks.